This is the JTV Caribbean News. I am Sean Rose. Jamaica's Minister of Transport and Works, Dr. Omar Davies, says it is important to place on record the tremendous value of the Petro-Carib Accord to Jamaica, which was facilitated by the Chavez-led government. To date, it is the largest bilateral assistance ever accorded to the government of Jamaica since its independence. With roughly two-thirds of the crude oil imported by Jamaica coming from Venezuela, the country has benefited tremendously under the Petro-Carib. Finance Minister Dr. Peter Phillips noted that since 2005, Jamaica has benefited to the tune of US $2.5 billion. According to CARICOM News Network, Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller said as at July 31, 2012, resources of approximately $1.6 billion from the Petro-Carib Fund have been used to finance projects in the areas of mining, education, transport, governance, energy, and to support the operations of certain public entities which provide critical services to the economy. Under the agreement, Venezuela has undertaken to supply Jamaica with up to 21,000 barrels of crude oil per day, refined products, and liquefied petroleum gas. The revolutionary Petro-Carib initiative that allowed signatory nations to benefit from subsidized Venezuelan fuel and the role its architect Hugo Chavez, the late president of Venezuela, played as a patron in Latin America and Caribbean integration were among the highlights of an afternoon of reflection in Guyana, 6 days after his death. Finance Minister Dr. Ashni Singh said he was impressed with the way the Venezuelan leader went about undertaking the discussions, paying keen attention to the peculiar challenges of each country. The discussions were being held at a time when oil prices had skyrocketed to more than $100 per barrel, up from $40, posing a challenge for many countries to meet fuel import costs and simultaneously craft budgets. In 2005, Guyana signed on to a Petro-Carib agreement along with 13 other countries that facilitates access to fuel from Venezuela on a credit basis that extends over a period of at least 25 years on an interest-free basis. A reciprocal component of the Petro-Carib initiative that facilitated exports from the Petro-Carib beneficiaries into the Venezuelan markets is another main feature. In Guyana's case, a rice exportation agreement was signed in 2011, allowing rice farmers and millers across Guyana to secure a preferential market, and the phenomenal growth that the country's rice sector has made can be attributed to the Venezuelan market on the Petro-Carib. Chavez died on March 5th after a long battle with cancer, attracting a large gathering of heads of state and government at his funeral in Caracas. The Bermuda government is losing almost 10% of its estimated revenue for the financial year to citizens dodging their payroll tax obligations. According to Caribbean Media Corporation reports, a finance ministry spokesperson said the government is looking for $85 million in unpaid taxes, which is the total amount of unpaid tax receivables more than 90 days old at the end of 2012. The bulk of the figure, which does not include social insurance contributions, comes from unpaid payroll tax and represents almost 10% of government's estimated $871 million revenue for the coming financial year. Finance Minister Bob Richards recently acknowledged that many businesses were struggling to pay off their tax bills in a timely fashion because of an ongoing 4-year recession. He said officials were willing to work with companies in arrears, but would also hunt down tax dodgers in a bid to collect funds. The finance minister said had the $85 million been paid on time, government's cash flow would have improved considerably, reducing its need for borrowing. The Bermudan government's debt ceiling is being extended to $2.5 billion, and $331 million will have to be borrowed to cover the cost of running the country over the next 12 months. The battle between receivers in the United States and Antigua over the dispersal of Alan Stanford's frozen assets has seemingly reached a truce. According to Reuters reports, officials liquidating Alan Stanford's offshore bank said they have reached a settlement that would return a substantial portion of the US $300 million in frozen assets to the victims of Stanford's fraud, a court ruling showed. Stanford was sentenced in June 2012 to 110 years in prison for bilking investors with fraudulent certificates of deposit issued by Stanford International Bank, his bank in Antigua. Ever since the Ponzi scheme was uncovered, U.S. and international authorities, including those in Antigua and the United Kingdom, have been fighting for control of Stanford's assets outside of the United States. The agreement between U.S. and Antiguan officials provides for the distribution of almost 90% of the frozen assets from the UK, Canada, and Switzerland, and will become effective after it has been approved by the respective courts in those countries. The dispute for control over Stanford's UK assets is currently pending before the UK Central Criminal Court. The new leader of the Catholic Church has special resonance for Latin America and the Caribbean, which had felt neglected by the Vatican, and has finally produced the new world's first pope. Many hope Pope Francis will bring a familiar cultural warmth while pushing the church to address a divisive gap between rich and poor in the region. He is also seen as someone who could bridge Latin America's left-right political split as a conservative devoted to fighting poverty and not afraid to speak out against the hierarchy. The church under Francis must also recover from the financial and sexual abuse scandals that marked Benedict's 8-year papacy before he resigned last month. For the JTV Caribbean News, I am Sean Rose.
Coming up next on JTV News. Health officials talk about steps taken to upgrade and modernize the healthcare system, experiencing Virgin Islands culture through visual arts. Virgin Gorda Easter Festival gets $100,000 budget for upcoming annual event. And patrons call for an encore presentation of sold-out cultural play in times past.
12 children she got. They must be hungry. She ain't got thing to cook for them today.
So what I got to do with that? Thing I said I'm going to get them.